ਹਿਮਾਨਯੋਗ ਅਤੇ ਸਤਿਕਾਰਤ ਸਰੋਤਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਸਤਿਕਾਰ ਸੈਨੀ ਕੀ ਜਿਹੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਜੀਣ ਵਾਖਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਸੋ ਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਫਾਰਮਿੰਗ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਹਾਜ਼ਰ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹਾਂ। ਮੈਂ ਰਾਜਕਨਵੀਰ ਸਿੰਘ। ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਖੇਤੀਬਾੜੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਉਹ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਫਾਰਮਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੋਊਗੀ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਲੀ ਔਰ ਇਨਡਾਇਰੈਕਟਲੀ। ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੋਈ ਅੱਜ ਪਾਣੀ ਦੇ ਮਸਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਵੀ ਆਪਾਂ ਥੋੜ੍ਹੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੈਜਿਸਲੇਸ਼ਨਸ ਰੱਖੇ ਗਏ ਆ, ਮਤੇ ਰੱਖੇ ਗਏ ਆ ਕੈਲੀਫੋਰਨੀਆ ਦੀ ਅਸੈਂਬਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਬਤ ਕੀ ਅਪਡੇਟਸ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀਆਂ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਸੰਬੰਧਿਤ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਸਿਗਮਾ GSA ਰੀਚਾਰਜ ਕੀ ਹੁੰਦਾ, ਟਲੈਰੀ ਲੇਕ ਦੀ ਕੀ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਆ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਅਤੇ ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਵਾਟਰ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਤੋਂ ਡੌਨ ਰਾਈਟ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਆ ਉਹ ਜੁੜ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ। ਉਹ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਾਲ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਮੋਸਟਲੀ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਆਪਣੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਅੰਗਰੇਜ਼ੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋਊਗੀ। ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕਰੂੰਗਾ ਮੈਂ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਨਾਲ ਤਰਜਮਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਿਆ, ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਆਪਾਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਆ ਉਹ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ। ਸੋ ਰਾਈਟ ਨਾਓ ਔਨ ਦ ਸ਼ੋ I have Don Wright with me. Don, welcome to the show once again.
Well, thank you, Raj, for having me. I had a great time last time. I'm looking forward to today.
Yeah, we'll try to know you better. We'll try to discuss all these kind of topics, what's going on regarding water right now. So let's start off with you, Don Wright. So as we were talking earlier before the show, you're not into farming, but you are into water rights. How come this transition came for you?
Well, I grew up in a farming community. My family was farmers of the previous generation.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't translate down to my generation. It stopped at my uncle. But my granddad came out here from Georgia, southern U.S., began farming in a town, San Joaquin,
Mm-hmm.
in western. In fact, if you go to James Irrigation District, you will see my dad's name and my grandmother's name on the plaque there.
Wow.
And my father had come from Oklahoma, and we're talking, I'm part Indian also, Cherokee. So we, like most Okies, Cherokee. But I got more than Senator Warren for sure. My grandmother spoke it.
Okay. So you don't know your native language? Do you a little bit?
No, not really. I used to. My father could speak it a little bit, but we didn't get it in the home.
Oh, okay.
Growing up here in the Central Valley too, there just wasn't much need to speak Cherokee.
True.
But and I didn't spend that much time in Oklahoma visiting family.
Just to learn that.
Yeah, I kind of regret it, but there's still not much use to speak Cherokee. Spanish should probably do me more good out here.
Yeah. Just to talk on that point, San Joaquin is one of the places where the Punjabi Sikhs came first?
Yeah.
In the Central Valley, San Joaquin is where the first Sikh Gurdwara was established.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, not many people live there. They have wandered out, but that was the place.
That is, yeah. There was a temple. I haven't been out there for, I guess, a temple. I don't know what you call it.
There still is, yeah.
Yeah.
Gurdwara,
and but it was like when I was growing up out there, it was like Mayberry, and now it's not time's not been kind to San Joaquin.
Yeah,
put
true.
It that way, unfortunately, but so anyhow, one thing goes to another, and I was telling you before the show, my math skills are pretty poor.
It's okay.
And so I ended up, on the 13-year plan to get my 4-year degree from Fresno State. And I became a reporter. And I was I started off writing about entertainment because one of my failed careers was rock star. Also, I was going to be a professional saddle bronc rider. I started riding bulls and rodeos when I was 13.
Okay.
And then, life hits you a little harder when you get, you're paying your own bills.
The reality is quite different. Yeah.
So, but as it turned out, I could write. Who knew? And I got a job writing about entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I had some background in that. And then I got an opportunity to be chief of staff for one of the county supervisors.
Okay.
And I had I'm not going to say it's a political career. It was an administrative duty to support him. But that, Raj, I'll tell you what, that was interesting. That really opened my eyes to a lot. And God bless the man. His name is Doug Vagum. And he forced me. He just shoved me out in the middle of it and said, do it. I don't know how. No, do it. And
you did it.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it, and I lived. And he's still a good friend of mine, a mentor of mine, and I appreciate him. From there, I ended up uh, going back to work, I worked for the Business Journal here in Fresno, and there wasn't anybody covering agriculture. I said, well, this is crazy. We're in the center of it. So I started covering ag, and the way media is, you get fired a lot. It's just, I did construction too, and I got fired a lot from that because the job's over or things change.
Yeah.
So the second time I was fired from the Business Journal, I got a call from the LA Times, a gentleman named Mark Arax, who's a pretty well-known author. He's from Fresno. Mark, he told me, they found Chandra Levy's body in Modesto. Now, she was an intern to a congressman who had disappeared, and there was a lot of speculation that he had done. It turned out no, she had been murdered. But I went up there and I found out that some information. I called it back here to Mark, who wrote the story. Now that's called doing stringer work. So to be completely honest, I was a stringer. Yet the next day, front page above the fold, LA Times, Levy body found by Mark Arax and Don Wright. Mark Arax, wherever you are, God bless you, brother. He changed my life with that one little bit. And I started doing more and more. I did the Scott Peterson murder trial, part of that, some pretty high profile stuff. Well, there was a company based in Los Angeles called Western Development and Storage. They wanted to put in a water bank in Madera.
Okay.
All right. They needed somebody up here. And they had learned of me through the LA Times, and they got in contact with me. And I was able to start working with them. And for about 18 years, I traveled from Bakersfield to Redding and back and everywhere in between, going to water agency meetings, irrigation districts, JPAs, water districts, and sending them reports.
Okay.
And they got to a point that they really didn't need me anymore. And we kind of split ways, but we did it amiably. I still can call them and I love them.
Good friends.
They're great people. They're called Renewable Resource Group now, and they become very big. And so I thought I could do this on my own. So I started this website, Water Rights, and it's been growing. And
so that's when the love for water came for you, when you went to the meeting.
Yeah.
What did you find out? What was the points?
Well, what's really the thing that I do that I think is maybe a little bit different. I don't really write about water. I write about people. I try to keep that human side, because you may recall many years ago, there was a advertising slogan, everybody needs milk. It got pulled because not everybody, everybody does need water. And it's such a huge topic. You never run out. There's never any chance. I think, and I'll say this, I believe I probably know more about water, literally, than 99% of the people in California. Now, I'm not bragging, because I only know a very little bit.
True.
And every day I'd know less. There's so much more out there. But yeah, that's the hook. It's how, and like I said, I started off doing entertainment news. I've ridden the bus with Waylon Jennings and partied backstage with the Scorpions and all kinds of adventures with some very creative people. But I have never met anybody in my life more creative than an irrigation district manager trying to get water for his growers. And it's a
challenging job.
It's a challenging. It never ends. But you always want to know what's next.
Yeah.
It's like those the TV show that ends right in the middle when it's going to get good. So you got to tune in again to see.
Yeah.
There's so much of that.
So as you were saying, it's a challenging job. So everybody needs water, as everybody know. So there are a lot of legislations regarding water. Who gets water? Where can it come from? Who really owns it? So there are multiple legislations which they're talking about. So can you update about it?
Yeah. In fact, last time I was here, I mentioned 3 bills in particular. 2 of them were assembly bills, and one was a state Senate bill. The 2 assembly bills were going to change the way that the State Water Resources Control Board could regulate who gets water and how much. Allocate, these allocations. Because what the state board has the power of is they can turn the tap on and off there at the Delta. And the way the plumbing is, and I don't know how to do this in 2 days, let alone the hour that we have to fully explain the thing. And that's even at my basic level, because it gets more in depth. But But there's 2 pumping plants located in the Delta.
Mm-hmm.
The Delta is where the San Joaquin and the Sacramento rivers and their tributaries meet.
Yeah.
And then that water flows out to sea through the Golden Gate, through San Francisco Bay and the Golden Gate. Well, there are 2 pumps up there. There's a pump for the state side.
Mm-hmm.
There's a pump for the federal side.
Okay.
There's 2 water projects and major projects in California. The state side goes from the Delta all the way down to Los Angeles area,
Mm-hmm.
the LA subbasin. The federal side ends in the San Joaquin Valley.
Mm-hmm.
It starts up at Lake Shasta and comes down. So the state board, if the state board wanted to say, we need more water to go out to the ocean to protect the fish,
Mm-hmm.
they can do that under certain circumstances. This legislation was going to give them just blank power to do it.
Mm.
And they say, well, we're going to turn off your water.
And
now remember,
they're not even elected
No.
personal.
5 people appointed by the governor.
Whoever he likes.
And there's a couple of criteria that you have to have.
Hmm.
For a couple of the seats, you have to have an engineering. But
Okay.
that doesn't necessarily mean I'm not going to embarrass. I'm not a fan of the state board.
Hmm.
Not because of the people that sit on it are evil,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not. I don't think it's a fair and equitable. Boy, there goes that word.
They don't represent us.
I don't think so. No, they represent Sacramento.
Hmm.
They represent the state
just the
instead of
capital.
the people.
Hmm.
But there's a lot of that. All this legislation we're talking about, the majority of it comes from the Bay Area, for one,
Mm-hmm.
or along the coast. There's an elitist.
They don't know what farming,
And they don't know. In fact,
what they
one of the
need.
major. I don't want to put anybody on the hot seat by
Mhm.
naming a name, but I have heard these. I'm going to. So take it as hearsay if you want, but it's truth.
Okay.
Okay. I was at the ACWA, the Association of California Water Agency meetings,
Mm-hmm.
last May in Monterey. One of the state board representatives was there talking, and he said, very disappointed that we're seeing all this water, but the domestic wells are not rising.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the engineers there had to say, well, sir, please remember, the first day of the drought, the wells don't disappear. And the first day of the heavy rains, they don't come back.
Yeah.
Give it a little time. And that was just disconcerting for many of us to think that this is the guy representing us on the state board.
He's making decisions.
One of the 4 people making these kind of decisions didn't
Mhm.
understand that basic tenet of hydrology.
Hmm.
All right, there's that. Then one of the major lobbying firms up there, I heard the guy say in a public meeting, and again, I'm not going to embarrass him, even though it was public, both of these instances.
Yeah.
But he goes, it's pretty evident that the people writing the laws currently, because
Mhm.
remember, we have a very new group of legislatures. The turnover's been pretty big here
Mhm.
recently. They don't really understand how water works in California, but they're
Hmm.
eager to write laws about it. So, some
So
good
what's
news.
the update like the one you were saying?
Yeah. Okay. The 2 of those laws that we talked about last
Mhm.
time, excuse me for making paper noise. That was SB 460. That means Assembly Bill 460
Mm-hmm.
and Assembly Bill 1337.
Mm-hmm.
Those were the ones that were going to change the amount of power that the
Supervisors have.
the State Water Resources Control Board had, so that you could not have a fair hearing. You couldn't. There was no hearing guaranteed any longer, and it was just arbitrary. It was up to their decision, and it freed them from having to obey certain laws that are on the books right
now they have to obey the law.
Yeah, there's
They have
things
to
they
abide.
can't just. They can do a lot, but they can't just do it without. If we don't like it, at least we have a say so.
Say so.
We can have a review. This took that out.
Okay.
So the one SB 460
Mm-hmm.
was turned into a 2-year bill.
Okay.
Now, what that, as I understand it, and I am not a lobbyist or an expert in legislation, but
Mm-hmm.
the fact that it became a 2-year bill, that means they're going to study it. And really, it's a polite way of saying it's not going to pass.
Hmm.
Okay. The other bill,
Mm-hmm.
1337, was amended enough times that the really bad parts were taken out.
Okay.
There was and by the way, one of the things that I want to touch on more later in the show,
Sure.
if we can, but the fact that PUG got involved
Mm-hmm.
helped to defeat these bills. And
Hmm.
we'll get into that a little bit more, but I appreciate
About
this
the unity. Yeah.
involvement. Then there was a bill that was amended to the point where it was no longer in support, but at least it was no longer in opposition. It was watered down enough to get it to be palatable. Then the last bill, Senate Bill 389, that bill was going to change the way the state board could go and force you to research your water rights and present them with a report. And in the meantime,
it was on us.
Yeah, they put the onus on us. Remember, the state board was formed to keep track of water rights. They no longer can do that.
It's still on us. Then what's the point?
Yeah, but they could suspend your supplies for 180 days. Like a lot of farmers in this audience. You want to go 180 days without irrigating? Yeah.
I had my well not dry off. There was some problem with it for 7 days. Everything dried off. My personal domestic
Your home?
well. Yeah.
Now, where are you located at?
Over here in Clovis.
But I mean, east of town there.
And yeah.
Give me a cross street.
Yeah.
I don't need your address. I don't want the groupies showing up and get your wife, man.
Yeah.
All these radio groupies coming. Hey, we want Raj. We want. No, but what's a cross street?
No, it was just an electrical problem with the wells. I was away from the town. I wasn't there, and you were saying 180 days. For 7 days, everything dried off.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you meant your well went dry.
No. Well didn't. Still, thank God, the water is there. Yeah.
Okay, hallelujah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that what had happened was the Association of California Water Agencies, the California Farm Bureau Federation, and a trash can full of other agencies and organizations joined together to protest these bills and to lobby against them. PUG became one of those. And so, yes, we were able to avert a real mess.
Are they still on the table? You're saying they're kind of pretty watered down.
They've been the two that are probably going to pass have been watered down. The one that we could not, the SB 460 was written by a woman named Assemblywoman Rebecca Bauer Kahn.
From Berkeley?
She was not,
From Berkeley?
Yeah, or up there in that area.
Okay.
Right?
East Bay, huh?
Yeah, East Bay. And she was not willing to negotiate and to try and find it. Frankly, she is in charge of one of the assembly committees dealing with water.
What? Okay.
But that doesn't, I saw some of her testimony and they only invited like attorneys from the universities and people representing so-called social justice. Do we have about 20 minutes for me to rant and rave about what that means? The perversion of language. What about Punjabi radio announcer justice? What about, water reporter justice? It means the same thing.
Yeah.
All it means is we want you can't question us because we're just. Well, that's not true. So, yeah. So that was so they didn't get good testimony, but it was thankfully turned into she had another bill that was going to make it illegal to profit from water trades, which would have shut down a major portion of how we move water around in between
I think
agencies.
LA basin, they get water from everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a profitable business for whoever is sending water there.
And
right?
I don't know if the state thinks that many people up there, they seem to think that they own the money. that all of this is theirs to spend as they see fit. So we'll raise your taxes, but you can't profit off of this. Well, how the hell are we supposed to, excuse my language, how the heck are we supposed to pay for anything? Because the state doesn't make money. They do not create wealth.
Yeah.
The people create wealth.
Yeah.
And then the state spends it. So but as we also talked about before the show, it's been a wonderful opportunity for me to get to know I don't want to sound like a butt kisser, but to get to know the Punjabi community a little bit better. They share the same values. You guys share the same values that I share, which are basically farmer values. And again, I want to save it for later, but I do want to talk about that unity thing that could happen.
Let's talk about, you were talking about when you came last weekend, there was a seminar with PUG and everything. How did that go? What were the things you guys discussed in that?
We talked about it. There was some great information. By the way, what I liked about it was presented in a way that was accessible to the layman, even though there was chemistry, plant science. There was some very technical stuff, but it didn't fly over my head.
Hmm.
I had a little trouble with the language, but
Well,
it's
obvious.
because I don't speak Punjabi.
Punjabi very
Okay.
well. Yeah.
Shame on me.
You'll learn someday. No worries.
But I still got a tremendous thing. And it was, so there was a lot, there was talk, we were able to bring in some of the folks from Fresno State,
Mm-hmm.
and the California University system itself, state
Mm-hmm.
university system, Dr. Steve Blumenschein. And he and I are working on a study that has to do with Sigma called the WAVE study.
Mm-hmm.
That's water and the valley economy.
Okay.
And we have two guys, and I'm going to butcher their names.
Gurit
Dr.
Brad. Yeah.
Dr. Brar spoke, and that was good. But those are the two students, Hardwinder or Harbander, and
I don't know.
Hunkamoo.
That's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay.
The
No
Harmony something, Harmavir.
Harman Beer, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, those guys, they're working with us now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a blessing because, it brings that whole, again, it brings this whole, how do we spread this out and catch everybody? Because people think, what do they think of? They think English, Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I found out? The Punjabi community has 750,000 acres under cultivation in this valley. I don't believe
that's a big number.
That's a large number. Now, you got your Sandridge farms. You got Wonderful. You've got some big farms, but I don't think the biggest of the privately owned farms even begin. Scratch that. Boswell.
Most of them are all family farms,
and they're small family farms. It's so that's a good part. So we can really find out what is the results coming out. So that was one of the things that came out, and I got a free shirt, so.
Which is good always. Okay, we're gonna take a little break in here, and once we come back, we'll talk about Tulare Lake Sigma GSAs.
Oh, okay.
Stay tuned, everybody. ਬ੍ਰੇਕ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰੀ ਫੇਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਹੈ। ਸੋਤੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਜੀ ਅਪਡੇਟ ਫਾਰਮਿੰਗ। ਮੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਸਟੂਡੀਓ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਡੌਨ ਰਾਈਟ, ਵਾਟਰ ਰਾਈਟਸ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਆ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਐਡੀਟਰ ਨੇ। ਸੋ ਡੌਨ, ਵੈਲਕਮ back once again.
Yeah, let's go for it.
So right now we'll be talking about Tulare Lake. We've seen that old lake back to life. So a lot of melting happening. As we know, a lot of snowfall, a lot of rain and everything contributed to this lake re-emerging. So what's the latest on that? Is it receding? Is it still more water coming in? What's the update on it?
Well, I am not your Tulare Lake expert, but
Mhm.
I do keep my ears open, and I'm going to tell you what I understand about it.
Mhm.
It's certainly not getting any worse. It's receding, but it's receding at a fairly slow pace.
Okay.
Yeah, it was the largest freshwater lake west of the Mississippi River at one time for land area. It's always been a shallow lake
Mhm.
because it's at the bottom of this valley.
Mhm.
It would be fed by rivers.
Excess water.
Yeah, and it'd stay there, and it'd be year round because it was getting snow melt throughout the year. Kings River, Kern River, other
Yeah.
rivers in between. But they dried it and started farming, but they knew it was going to flood someday. We had a 300% of our average snow melt this year. I mean snowfall this year.
Yeah.
Well, that's a lot of water. There's been times in since California became a state that a couple of times the entire valley has been flooded.
Mhm.
And I think it was 1886.
Mm.
It was an inland sea, literally.
Mm.
I don't know, hundreds of thousands of acres underwater, thousands of deaths that wiped out the cattle, the beef cattle industry, because the herds drowned. They just couldn't get them out of the way.
Mm.
All right. So now we have this. We know what's going to happen. We have some dams in place. And this year, with this heavy snowpack, you might recall back in May, it had been pretty cool. And then all of a sudden it got warm for a couple of days. Now, it had been staying cool enough to where there was not a hurried snow melt runoff. But then it got hot for a couple of days. And
A lot of
then it got cold again. So what happened when it got hot? It formed an ice sheet over the top of it. Now, I found this out. I was telling you about this. Sunlight, not the heat of the sunlight, but the actual light ray itself can cause snow to melt. But it doesn't really do. You can shine light on ice all you want, but if it doesn't get warm, it's not going to melt. So what God did was come in and give us this ice sheet over much of our supplies so that and we had relatively mild, cool weather through the early part of all of spring and the early part of summer. It was a perfect recipe for a nice, slow runoff. So that's why Tulare Lake didn't turn out to be a bigger mess. But there's a lot going on there still. I mean, state of California, in its wisdom, decided to build Corcoran Prison in a lake bed, and they had to do some levee work. High-speed rail. I understand that. They were warned repeatedly about building a train track.
High, isn't it?
Yeah, so they've got a little bit of trouble. Yeah, but I think for certainly for now in the foreseeable future, there's no threat coming out of there. There's a lot of underwater stuff, fences and power lines and some crops. Not everybody avoided it, but a lot of that land was also used for instead of putting orchards in the most lowest spot for the
livestock.
floods. Yeah, or just tomatoes or garlic, something that if you knew it was going to get bad, you could pull it out and not have not unlike an orchard, where you're going to lose everything. Yeah. So, and that's about all I got on Tulare Lake.
So as you were talking earlier, one of the persons, why the wells are not going up. So does this slow melt now helping us to recharge water underground?
I believe it is, because usually, I mean, some years we get a lot of water, even dry years. We get a lot of water, but it all melts within a very short period. And we don't have the surface storage to keep it. And the way that they operate the pumps up in the Delta, we can't always take advantage of these flows when we need to. So this year, with it slowing down a little bit, there have been I think Rain for Rent even gave out free equipment to the irrigation districts so people could pump water out of the swollen canals onto their property earlier this springtime, late winter, early spring, to help. So we've had a pretty good shot at recharge. There's still, I mean, there's always, who knew? You can always do a little bit better if like when I told you, when I can walk on water, well, by then I'll be able to predict how much water we're going to get. And I'll give everybody a heads up ahead of time. But until somebody can do that, no, we do what we can. I think we've made a pretty good effort, and we're going to learn from it. And next, I tell you what, I'll bet you every penny I got in my bank account right now. Next time we have a wet year like this, we're going to know a whole lot more about how to
handle it.
Yes, because when this ties into the Sigma thing, kind of, they started Sigma implementation in 2020, and we've had nothing but dry weather, and so we never got a chance. And all of a sudden, we got this big flood. So this is certainly going to help us, because what we need is more recharge.
Okay. And talking about Sigma and GSAs and recharging, how these things tie in together now.
Sigma, before I go any further, is the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act of 2014. It was passed in 2014. It gave the California's divided into hydrological basins. South of the San Joaquin River to the Tehachapi Mountains, south of Bakersfield, is the Tulare Lake Basin. From the San Joaquin River north to the Delta is the San Joaquin Basin. I know you have growers far beyond, but I don't have as extensive knowledge. So let me just name some of the sub-basins, because when in Sigma, this is really what we're dealing with, is sub-basins. So from the Kings River, basically, to the San Joaquin River is the King Sub-Basin. Then south of there is the Cahuilla Sub-Basin. Then there's the Tule Sub-Basin. There's the Tulare Lake Sub-Basin over on the west side, where Tulare Lake is. And then in Kern County, there's the Kern Sub-Basin. Now, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act has decided to use these sub-basins as a whole. Each of these sub-basins has to bring their groundwater supplies in balance. So you can't pump more water out than is put in. Now, the good thing is we've got till 2040 to achieve this. And there are 6 undesirable. It's not really about bringing things in balance. It's avoiding undesirable results. So each of these sub-basins have to have at least one groundwater sustainability agency overlooking this process. Most of them have more than one. But let's talk about the Cahuilla Sub-Basin. That's Tulare, Visalia, Exeter, up through there. They have 3 GSAs, groundwater sustainability. Each sub-basin must produce one groundwater sustainability plan. That plan was due by 2020. But the state Department of Water Resources had ever how long it needed to review these plans and determine if they were complete or incomplete, or did they pass
or not pass?
Well, 6 of them didn't pass here in the valley, but 3 or 4 of them did pass. The here in Fresno, we are in the Kings Sub-Basin, and it passed. But we have better water supplies than they do. Further south you go, the tougher it gets. So the Cahuilla did not pass. So now they have to rewrite these plans, and they're going to have a review by the State Water Resources Control Board. The same bunch of guys we were talking about. Well, they don't have to follow Sigma the same way that the Department of Water Resources does.
Why?
The Department of Water Resources was assigned to determine if the plans would avoid the 6 undesirable results, which include subsidence and, gosh, I should know these off the top of my head. I don't.
Taking water in and how much.
There's back. Just things you can, subsidence or damage to wells and things like this. So the idea is they can get this, if they can get it rewritten, but nobody's ever done this before. And so the Department of Water Resources helped them try to get it written in the first place. They found deficiencies. Now the state board has the power to come in and manage if they find that the rewrites of these plans are in default. The state board can come in and they can give us a pretty onerous slap. You want to pay a extra $500 per acre foot pumping above your allocation. Well, I'm not going to say that is, but it could. The hearings don't start until December, so we've got this year, and they'll go through the spring for the 6 subbasins plans. So there's nobody wants the state board coming in and managing groundwater, and nobody wants. I don't think the state board even wants to do it. I don't think they feel they have the strength to do it.
Okay.
They don't have the resources, and it'd be foolish. They don't know what they're. I'm not trying to degrade them as individuals or human beings or workers, but nobody knew. Sigma was brand new. They said, go out and make it happen. Every place else, Arizona has a similar thing to the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act. They took 5 years and studied how best to design a law that could be implemented. We had a bunch of people come over here from the Netherlands in Europe. They were out of Fresno State when I was there one day. Had a long talk. They were like, what? You guys just passed this law and they told you to make it happen? Yeah, kind of. Well, we spent 10 years figuring out how best to put our groundwater regulations together to benefit everybody and to remain sustainable. California went about it a little backwards. So it's not real clear how the state board's discretion lines up with, because there's the whole other thing of their staff are the ones that tell them what to do. Well, they said they make suggestions like any board. Staff has the they're there and they'll make a recommendation. Don't have to follow that recommendation to the T. But part of the problem is we have a bunch of out of control non-governmental organizations. They're known as NGOs. Okay. They have the staff's ear. They have the ear of these legislators. The same ones that are coming up with these crazy legislation. A lot of it's from environmental groups or so-called social justice groups, things like that. They're not in touch with reality. Honestly, their version would send us back to the Stone Age. And it would cripple this valley. There's a guy over named Steve Bennett. He's an assemblyman out of Ventura. He decided, nobody asked him to, but he decided that the GSAs, remember we're talking about these GSAs that are agencies, they need help with well permitting. So we're going to impose on everybody that if you're going to drill a new well, you have to come up with an engineer's report that states there is this well will not harm anybody else's well, and it will not cause any adverse conditions under Sigma.
Who can say that?
Yeah, it's like the guy that can see underground for miles and miles. I've talked to hydrogeologists, and I make fun of them because they're kind of like they like Lords of the Ring a little too much, maybe, but they're good guys and they're scientists. They know the hydrology, they know the geology. They said, and this is chilling to me. They said, first off, it would cost $100,000, $1,500, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000. We don't really know what it would cost to put together a plan that is required under this bill. And even if we did, we know we can't guarantee it, but we have an engineering stamp that legally binds us that we've done this. So we have to buy insurance, and they do anyway. They buy, I think it's called errors and omissions insurance. We can't find anybody to sell us the insurance to protect us if something goes wrong with this. Almost impossible to. And plus, we're adding another $250,000 for it. Nobody asked them to do that, Bennett. And the governor told him, I'll veto it. That was last year. This year, he's done another one. I don't know. I haven't heard what's happened with it yet. But I don't think it could pass this year. I hope not. Because that's the danger. We've got till 2040 to do Sigma to get in compliance. But if the guys up in Sacramento don't really know what's happening, they go, they're not going fast enough. We'll rewrite the law. That's a danger. And we have to fight it. That's why We're having to fight it every year now. So not only do you have to worry about pests, water, weather, variety, market prices, now we got to fight the legislator every year that they don't
Who
change the
don't know
rules.
what the reality is.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, believe me, they're not farming up there.
Hmm.
A lot of these ideas are coming out of the faculty lounge. You know, I've talked before about racial equity and critical race theory and
Mhm.
how they're trying to say that the water rights in California are invalid because they were instituted back in the 1800s. So of course it was just all white guys. So it's white supremacy. That was my favorite part of Saturday's PUG meeting, was when I looked around the room and asked for a show of hands from all the white supremacists, evil corporate farmers that are benefiting from water rights. And of course, they're,
None of them.
I couldn't find one in the whole room.
Well, so you say the fight is on. Like
Fight's on, baby.
So how do you see that achieving? Like what kind of organizations you see uniting together, getting together to fight these kind of things?
Well, one of the things was this coalition put together by the Association of California Water Agencies, ACWA,
Mm-hmm.
the California Farm Bureau Federation,
Mm-hmm.
and as I said, there's another organization that I've become aware of and started attending their meetings, is the Southern California Water Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
They were in opposition, and I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but I joined California Women for Ag because I think they're an excellent organization. And then the mean girls ganged up on me and voted me secretary. So now I'm really involved in them.
Mm-hmm.
But they signed on, and PUG signed on.
Mm-hmm.
PUG is like the secret weapon. I mean, it's like we're not going to have to invade Japan after all. We got a nuclear bomb, and we call it PUG. They can come up there and say, look, like I asked the other day, are we a bunch of racists? Are we a bunch of white supremacists? No, man, but we need our water rights. Quit trying to screw us. So I see these unity coming about. One of the other exciting developments was that the Southern California Water Coalition, now they represent half the population of the state.
Mm-hmm.
They have the votes.
They have.
And they get their water from those plants up in the Delta.
Mm-hmm.
They get part of their water from the Colorado River, but that's in play right now, as we know. And who knows for sure what's going to happen there. A lot of politics happening. And they have to get it down that great big fat California aqueduct that follows I-5.
Yeah.
And then gets pumped over into the LA basin. That is their water source. It's also our water source.
True.
And there's a chance to unite the valley with Southern California so that some of these Bay Area wackos will quit, automatically deciding they're going to show us how to, the coastal elitist thing. We've heard about it. It's there. The lifestyle in, Los Gatos is far different than the lifestyle in Huron.
It's a lot different. Yep.
Yeah. The temperature, everything. So we maybe we'll get some reprieve by this unity. And one of the other things that I like about this is, and if we can, we could talk about gadgets in a minute if you want, but
sure.
Let's just go ahead and talk a little bit about the water blueprint for the San Joaquin Valley.
Tell us about it.
Okay. There's a think tank up in San Francisco called the Public Policy Institute of California. They did a study. What will the impacts of Sigma be on the San Joaquin Valley? The economic impacts. If they shut down, if we do not get an additional, let me back up a minute. We used to get plenty of surface water from the mountains, the snow melt, the reservoirs, and from the Delta coming in. What this did for us, it gave us the ability to flood irrigate and that water
would recharge something.
And they would recharge. Okay, so we're getting recharge. Oh, we got a dry year. Yeah, but we were able to put our water in the ground ahead of time. Now we can pump. It's called conjunctive use. Back in the 70s, 1976, I believe, but I could be wrong. Anyway, somewhere time in 1970s, they came up with the Central Valley Project Improvement Act. That was a piece of legislation that cut back a big chunk of the water we received under the Central Valley Project.
Hmm.
Central Valley Project supplies water down the Frank Kern Canal, the Frank Kern Canal and the San Luis Delta Mendota
Yep.
water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now we got all that cut off, a big chunk of that cut off. And then they have been stair-stepping us. Boom, 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 boom. We're getting 50% of what we contracted for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we had to change our cropping pattern.
So
We can't.
that came under due to that legislation.
Well, that and other environmental, supposedly to help the salmon and the smelt up in the
Are we
Delta.
eating those salmon?
Or I could go and order salmon. I don't know what the problem is, but it's not necessarily salmon that came from the Delta, from the San Joaquin and San Joaquin rivers.
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't tell you this, and Raj, you're not going to believe me. You're going to ask me to get up and walk out of here when I tell you this, but it's
Mm-hmm.
the truth. 90% of the out-migrating juvenile salmon leaving through the Delta to go out to sea
Mm-hmm.
is eaten by striped bass.
Hmm.
90%. Striped bass is not native to the Delta. That was a sports fish that was introduced.
Ah.
But they won't change the take limit.
Hmm.
And they're telling you, well,
Can they take that bass out of there?
yeah, of course they could,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't.
Hmm.
Why is that?
Who knows?
Because they want that fresh water flowing out of the Delta through the Carquenes Strait into the San Francisco Bay
Mm-hmm.
and out through the Golden Gate, because that takes all of the pollution that they're dumping in that big multi-million people industrial area
Mm-hmm.
up there. They get to dump wastewater into the bay. As
Hmm.
long as the constituents are diluted,
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to upgrade their wastewater treatment plants.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Does that have anything to do with it? I think so, but
Sure.
proving
Sounds
it
like
now. But yeah, but just the idea of those fish,
Hmm.
the predatory fish there in the Delta, that could change the salmon population immediately.
Mm-hmm. Then a lot of water can come over here.
More water could come here, and certainly more salmon could come back
Mm-hmm.
and have a thriving salmon population.
Hmm.
I don't understand it. I'm not the smartest, brightest bulb in the chandelier, so one of these days maybe I'll figure it out and I'll share it with you if I do. But that's my theory on it.
Hmm.
Now the blueprint says after they took away our surface supplies, we were no longer able to flood irrigate and recharge, so we started doing drip irrigation.
Mhm.
All right, good. And we need to, that's a bigger investment, so we have to plant orchards. They're bigger return on those crops. Well, we can't just shut down. We got a dry year. Those trees have to be watered.
True.
Again, it's not like, well, we're just not going to plant that much cotton this year. We'll plant less cotton to have enough water. You can't do that with trees. So
Once planted, they need the water.
now we're pumping.
Yeah.
Oh, look at you guys. You're making a big mess of things. You're pumping.
Hmm.
Wait, you're the ones that cut off our water that would have allowed us to recharge in the first place.
It's a compound problem.
Yeah,
happening,
and it's just
stacking on one
Yeah.
thing another.
so now with this, if they're going to limit the amount of water, and they are,
Mm-hmm.
Sigma's going to limit the amount of water that can be pumped.
Pumped. Yep.
You're going to be seeing 1 million acres taken out of production. Is not a
Mhm.
far-fetched. So a bunch of guys got together, and it was mostly ag, because that's going to be felt first.
Hmm.
Is the agricultural sector.
Mm-hmm.
They got together. They hired a guy, Dr. David Sundig,
Mm-hmm.
and another doctor named Dr. David, and I can't remember his last name, but they're both professors at Berkeley,
Mm-hmm.
UC Berkeley.
Hmm.
That's not an ag-friendly, that's not even a
University.
human-friendly place.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're from Berkeley, and they did an economic analysis, and it's going to devastate the west side of the valley. All of the what they call disadvantaged communities, the poorest of the poor, are going to be hit the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
So we took a look at this and said we need to form a way to change this narrative, or else the valley's going to really turn into a hellhole.
Mm-hmm.
And they formed the water blueprint for the San Joaquin Valley.
Okay.
This was accepted under the Governor's Newsom's water resiliency plan
Hmm.
to represent the valley of how it's going to work. Okay, so what the key to it in my mind,
Hmm.
there's other people that have different minds than mine, but the key to it is, instead of when you're at those pumps up there that are sending that water down these canals, if the water is real turbid, full of silt and stuff, they tell you to stop pumping because there could be smelt hiding in there. Okay, well now we can't pump, but that's when does it get turbid? When we have that big flow in the springtime, the big snowmelt flows. These fish screens are placed in front of these pumps to keep the fish from, but they don't really work.
Okay.
I mean, all the water, the major water infrastructure in California was built 60 years ago, 50, 60 years. This is antique technology. And the blueprint said, we have a way, the water blueprint for the San Joaquin Valley, I just call it the blueprint, I apologize. But it has a way to take pipes that have perforated holes. They can take it underneath the river, bury it underground, put gravel around it. The water infiltrates down into these pipes, and the water is then transferred to a holding basin, where the pumps can take it and send it down the canals to us. On average, we have, not every year, but on an average, we'll have 10 million acre feet extra above any regulation needed for environmental purposes or health and human safety or any of the other causes. This is just water that's going out to sea.
We can use that water.
Yeah. We need 2 million more acre foot a year coming in here. Now, if we can take that, even if it's turbid, no matter what's going on, that water seeps down through those. No fish are captured. It doesn't impact the flow of the river. It just provides a constant supply during the most prevalent times. And so we send it down here. We fill up San Luis Reservoir out by Los Banos. We go out and we recharge into water banking throughout every year. This is a pretty good, and Southern California, Southern California Water Coalition I was talking about, they need water too. They can bank their water underground here in the valley and then take it later when they need it. So we're not building reservoirs. We're not harming the economy.
Isn't part of Sigma capturing water as well?
Yeah, this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's not part of Sigma as part of the law that you have to, but it only makes sense that you're going to have to recharge. They're not building dams. We put together a proposition for Prop 1, I think, came out in 2014 also.
Okay.
That put aside how many billions of dollars? Was it $6 billion to build new storage? $7.5 billion
bonds, yeah.
In bonds, and they haven't spent any of it yet. 7 years, and they haven't spent any money to build new storage. So what's going on?
Yeah, they need to really act on it.
Yes, they need to.
Yeah. Well, we're losing population. Everybody is leaving California. Otherwise,
who's leaving? That segment is the people that pay the taxes.
Yeah. Well, we are out of time.
No, we didn't even get to half this stuff. I wanted to talk about the mad scientists chasing me up and down Highway 99.
Maybe next
gadgets
time.
And whatnot. All right.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Don.
Thank you for having me.
So, ਸਰੋਤਿਓ ਇੱਥੇ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਦੀ ਸਮਾਪਤੀ ਆ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਆਪਾਂ ਅਗਲੀ ਵਾਰ ਵੀ ਹੋਰ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ। ਡੌਨ ਨੂੰ ਆਪਾਂ ਫੇਰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਦਿਨ, ਹੋਰ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਬਾਤਾਂ ਕਰਾਂਗੇ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੁਣ ਇਜਾਜ਼ਤ ਲੈਂਦੇ ਆ। ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ।